about why we dream, but no one knows for sure. Some researchers say dreams have no purpose or meaning and are nonsensical activities of the sleeping brain. Others say dreams are necessary for mental, emotional, and physical health. Studies have shown the importance of dreams to our health and well being. In one study, researchers woke subjects just as they were drifting off into REM sleep. They found that who were not allowed to dream experienced increased tension, anxiety, depression, difficulty concentrating, lack of coordination, weight gain, and the tendency to hallucinate. Simon Freud believed dreams are a window into our subconscious. He believed they reveal a person's unconscious desires, thoughts, and motivations.
There's a whole lore about dreaming. In fact, Sigmund Freud wrote a book called The Interpretation of Dreams, which many people think is the foundation of psychoanalysis. Well, scientists now have looked at Freudian psychology and the brain using all these modern techniques. And first of all, we realize that perhaps Sigmund Freud wasn't totally wrong. There are many textbooks which simply dismiss Freudian psychology, calling it nuts. That is nothing but the sexual fantasies of a repressed Venetian scientist of the last century. But now we realize there's more to it. First of all, the unconscious mind. We can actually see the brain in motion. And we realize that much of the activity is totally unconscious, just like what Freud predicted. And Freud also said there is the ego, the id, and the superego, that we are in a constant battle with our desires and our conscious. And we see that now with brain scans. The ego is basically your prefrontal cortex. That is who you are. When you wonder, where am I anyway? Well, you're right there. You are sitting right behind your forehead. And then your desires. We see the pleasure center right there at the center of the brain. That is the libido. We see where the pleasure center is located. And then your conscience is right behind your eyes. The orbital frontal cortex, right behind your eyes, is where your conscious is. And so we actually see that in motion. If you were to see a chocolate cake, you would see these three parts of the brain going zippity back and forth like a ping pong ball, because you're constantly debating the pleasure of eating a chocolate cake versus how fat you're going to become and all the sugar and the calories that you don't really need. So we see the beginnings of Freudian psychology coming out of brain scans. And now, dreams. Freud had a whole collection of interpretation of dreams. Scientists have looked at and said, nonsense. Now we understand the physiology of the dreaming process. And we realize that it comes at the back of the brain, a very primitive part of the brain, and that certain parts of the brain are shut off when you dream. First of all, your prefrontal cortex is basically shut off. It's quiet. Your orbital frontal cortex, that is your conscience, is also shut off. But that part of the brain is your fact checker. The part of the brain that said, that's not right, something's wrong, is right behind your eyes. That's shut off. What is active when you dream is your amygdala. And what does your amygdala govern? Fear and emotions. And so right then you know that when you dream, the active part of the brain is not the fact checker, not the rational brain, it's the emotional brain, the fearful brain that is active when you dream. And then there's some superstition called lucid dreaming, where you can actually control the direction of the dream. Well, that superstition last year became science fact. At the Max Planck Institute in Germany, they were able to show once and for all that lucid dreaming is testable, reproducible, it is real. And here's how they did it. They took a person who was about to go to sleep and told them that when you dream, clench your right fist and then clench your left fist. Now, when you dream, you are paralyzed. You cannot move when you dream. Otherwise, we'd be able to carry out all sorts of horrible things and destroy ourselves. So we are paralyzed when we dream. But when this person went into a dream state, you can clearly see that the brain initiated orders to clench your right fist and your left fist. In other words, he was conscious while he was dreaming. There are many Buddhist texts, many texts hundreds of years old, that give you the outlines of how to control dreams, lucid dreaming. We now know that it's not hogwash, that you can actually do this. You can actually direct the course of your dream. And then one day, we may be able to brain scan the brain as you dream and put it on a screen. In which case, somebody will be able to see you dream and know the direction of the dream, and you are conscious of the process. In other words, the movie Inception is not totally hogwash.
Dreams are basically stories and images our mind creates while we sleep. Dreams can be vivid. They can make you feel happy, sad, or scared. And they may seem confusing or perfectly rational. Dreams can occur anytime during REM sleep, but most vivid dreams occur during deep REM sleep when the brain is most active. Some experts say we dream at least 4 to 6 times per night. While circadian rhythms are physical, mental, and behavioral changes that follow a roughly 24-hour cycle, responding primarily to light and darkness in an organism's environment. They are found in most living things, including animals, plants, and many tiny microbes. The study of circadian rhythm is called chronobiology. Circadian rhythm are important in determining the sleeping and feeding patterns of all animals, including human beings. There are clear patterns of brainwave activity, hormone production, and cell generation, or other biological activities linked to this daily cycle. It is also important in determining human sleep patterns because of the body's master clock, or SCN, controls the production of melatonin, or hormone that makes you sleepy. Since it is from the eyes to the brain, the SCN receives information about incoming light. When there is less light, like at night, the SCN tells the brain to make more melatonin so you get drowsy.
Hey there, welcome to Life Noggin. You may think that since I'm merely an animation, I wouldn't be able to dream, right? Well, you're wrong. Last night, I had a dream I had human-like facial features and wasn't confined to the screen of your computer, and I was able to explore the human world and look at all those fancy toilets. I mean, look at this weird thing. A lot of people can't remember their dreams, and it's kind of strange that we can't recall something we do every single night. We are asleep about a third of our lives and dream at least 25% of that time. Most of our dreaming occurs during a stage of sleep called rapid eye movement, or REM. In this stage, as the name suggests, our eyes move around, but the rest of our body becomes paralyzed. That may seem terrifying, but it stops you from acting out your dreams, which could have some serious consequences, like you falling off your bed or flying into the sun. But dreaming isn't limited to just REM. Dreams have been reported even when the sleeper had only non-REM sleep. And even if a person gets a normal amount of REM sleep, lesions in their temporal parietal junction and medial prefrontal cortex are associated with a loss of dream recollection. But luckily, most of us don't have that problem. So then why do we forget most of our dreams? Well, as we talked about in our video about why we forget things, humans are really good at filtering out information that doesn't matter. If something doesn't grab our attention or isn't essential to know, you don't remember it. Think about the stream of consciousness you have when you're making breakfast in the morning. Chances are you can't recite it back to me. Some scientists think the same is true of dreams. But perhaps there is a neurological difference between those who recall most of their dreams and those who do not. To test this, researchers studied the brain waves of both types of sleepers. They primarily studied alpha waves between 8 to 12 Hz, which are also present when you are awake. Interestingly, oscillations of these alpha waves are associated with inhibition, meaning that a decrease in amplitude would correspond to a release in inhibition and therefore increased excitability. So let's relate that back to our dreams. While the volunteers were awake, tones were played in their ears, along with occasional and random first names. Those who recalled their dreams 4 or more times a week had a more sustained decrease in their alpha waves compared to those who only recalled their dreams once or twice a month. In other words, the high recalling group had a deeper processing of the first names while they were awake. However, this difference was not there during REM sleep. Instead, the alpha waves increased, possibly causing the volunteer to wake up. In fact, the main difference between groups was that those who recalled their dreams often woke up more throughout the night. This led scientists to believe that the time awake allows the dream's information to be encoded into long-term memory, allowing the sleeper to remember it the next morning. More time awake, more time to store the information. Makes sense, right? But before we can say anything conclusive, we need more research. We are just at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to our knowledge about dreams, and my knowledge about toilets. What is happening there? Anyway, why we forget dreams is still not exactly known. So tell me, do you remember most of your dreams? And if so, what's the weirdest dream you've had? If you want to see Life Noggin make more awesome content, consider contributing to our Patreon page. Head over to patreon.com/LifeNogginStudios. As always, my name is Blocko. This has been Life Noggin. Don't forget to keep on thinking.
Okay. Researchers don't know for sure why we dreams are easily forgotten. Maybe we are designed to forget our dreams because if we remember all our dreams, we may not be able to distinguish dreams from real memories. Also, it may be harder to remember dreams because during REM sleep, our body may shut down systems in our brain responsible for creating memories. We may only remember dreams that occur just before we wake, when certain brain activities have been turned back on. Some say our minds don't actually forget dreams, we just don't know how to access them. Dreams may be stored in our memory, waiting to be recalled. This notion may explain why we suddenly remember a dream later in our day. Something may have happened to trigger the memory.
Go. Nightmares or bad dreams are common in children and adults. Often nightmares are caused by stress, conflict and fear, trauma, emotional problems, medication or drug use and illness. If you have a recurring nightmare, your subconscious may be trying to tell you something. Listen to it. If you can't figure out why you are having bad dreams and you continue to have them, talk to a qualified mental health care and provider. They may be able to help you figure out what is causing your nightmares and provide tips to put you at ease. Keep in mind that no matter how scary your nightmare is, it is not real and most likely to happen to you in real life.
There are many examples of situations where a dream came true or was telling a future event. When you have a dream that then plays out in real life, experts say it is most likely due to coincidence, faulty memory, and an unconscious trying together of known information.